You are listening to the Buried Treasures podcast. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe down below. Like, comment, and share your favorite episode with your friends and family members. And please help us establish and build a masjid in Lombard, Illinois. You can go to supportmu.org to make a contribution. Jazakumullahu khairan. Welcome to the Buried Treasures podcast, brought to you by Masjid Uthman, where I interview a new guest every week to discover their journey. I'm Hamza Warsi. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone, for joining us. MashaAllah, we have an esteemed guest. It is our pleasure, our honor, to have the one, the only, from Florida and now from Houston, Mawlana Yousuf Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing?
Walaikum assalam. Chilling, alhamdulillah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your early life, and kind of what brought you to memorizing the Quran?
All right, so my Hifz story is very heavily connected to my relationship with my friends. That summer, whichever summer, well, I think maybe summer 2000, I finished Hifz in 2010, 2010. So I must have started in 2008. That summer when I started, RuneScape was a huge thing. And so I'm an OG RuneScaper. So I knew that I wanted to play RuneScape that entire summer. I built up my entire education. I sacrificed. I studied the entire school year. So I was like, when my mom told me in the summer, you can play as much RuneScape as you want. So I was just looking forward to that. Now, at that same time, our masjid called over our Hifz teacher from California, Mawlana Kashif, and he was supposed to, one of the main objectives why our masjid got him was because they wanted to start a Hifz program. So my mom, she knew I was cool with the kids in the Quran class who were transitioning over to Hifz, but she knew that I have no idea what anything is in the world Islamic related. So she's like, yo, your friend, she didn't say yo. She's like, your friends are joining a Quran class in the morning. Do you want to join them? And I'm like, who's going to be there? And she's like, oh, Usama, Usman, Hadi, like all my friends. And I'm like, oh, shoot, everybody's joining? She's like, yeah, everybody's there. So I'm like, all right, let's go for it. And so I joined Quran class and no idea what it was. I never heard the word Hifz. I still didn't even know the word Hifz until maybe in August when we started when the school year was starting. I thought maybe this was just for like 2 months and now school year is starting. I'm just going to go back to normal. And so my mom's like, no, you're just going to continue. This is going to be, you're going to do homeschooling and then you would do Quran class like this, like how it's been working in the summer. Same schedule. So I'm like, really? My friends are still going to be there? I asked them. They're like, yeah, we're still going to be here. I'm like, all right, good enough for me. And I just started my Hifz journey like that. But it wasn't like some dream that I got or something. Like, like a lot of kids, they look at me, they're like, oh, how did you decide to become a Hafiz? I was like, there was no dream involved. There was no divine revelation. My friends were there and I grew up with friends as family and they were there. I was like, yo, my family's doing Hifz. I'm in Quran class. I'm doing Quran class.
Wow, mashallah. Sorry, I forgot to ask you, or I guess I mentioned it. Where is this taking place exactly?
This is in West Palm Beach. This is Muslim community of Palm Beach County, MCPBC. We are the OG masjid. Before all the masjids started getting built, before all the other institutions, we were the only institution. We were the only masjid, right? So Bengalis, Arabs, Pakistanis, converts, everybody is in this one masjid. So our Hifz class, it was everybody. And so it was something to be seen. Like, it was so nice the way that it was set up. I never understood even, like this whole beef that, like some people, they have like this made up beef of, Indians versus Pakistanis.
Yeah.
I didn't even know my classmate was Indian. I thought everybody was just this. I never looked at anybody like that. And Florida was such a different vibe back then. It was just like, you come to the masjid, you're just here together and you're just vibing. And that's how we were with my classmates, all of us. In Florida, it's not like Chicago, where I give the example of when you go to Walmart, chances are no one's going to say salam to you, even if you're Muslim, just because it's so common. Like, nobody knows who you are because you don't know who you are when you go to Walmart. But in Florida, if you go to Walmart, you best believe if you see somebody, it's a big deal. Like, oh my God, today I saw Usama's mom at Walmart. Like, really? Oh my God, I gotta go call her up or something. Like, everybody knows who everybody is over there. So the vibe, the community. So if one of my friends did it, that's why I put so much importance to it, because it's like we do everything together. Like that's just how we grew up.
So were you in Florida your whole life? You were born and raised there?
So I was born in Pakistan. I am a fob. I'm very proud of this. I can have that label that I was born in overseas. I have that if I ever need to use it for whatever reason. But the problem is, as soon as I open my mouth in Urdu, they know it. It's like a lie. They're like, yo, this guy never been in Pakistan his whole life. But I was born in Pakistan, but I came to America when I was like 3 years old. So not much influence. Besides the fact that I do like the food, and also I do dress. Like I dress in a thobe normally. Like that is my standard attire, like shalwar kameez type of thing. I will be open to wearing that more than wearing American clothes. So I guess that's the one element of the culture that I'm very...
That you stuck with?
That I stick with it really hardcore.
You said 2008 is when you started, right? You started your Hifz journey. How was your attachment, say, to the masjid, or just in general, like overall with Deen prior to that? As you were mentioning that you knew nothing about Hifz previously, you just knew that your friends were going.
Even during my Hifz journey, prior to it, even during it, in Florida, Deen is not something that in our area, again, Orlando area, I'm sure it's much better. Tampa Bay area, it's much better. But West Palm Beach area, scholarship does not mean anything to us. I didn't even know the title of Mawlana while I was introduced to that word in Chicago. I called everybody Imam. And the scholars there got upset. Like, why are you calling everybody Imam? We're Mawlana, we're Mufti. I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't know there's such things. I thought every pious person is an Imam. So during my Hifz journey, I mean, I used to just simply just go to the masjid and that's it. But I never learned anything, Islamically speaking. The only reason why I even gained an interest in learning Islam was simply through action, just through our teacher. He's the only interaction that I had with Islam, and any positive image that I had of Islam is through that man by himself. Way that he lived, way that he talked, way that he interacted with us. Mawlana Kashif, he is the reason whatever I've done Dini-wise, he is the inspiration. I owe it to him for everything. So I didn't know anything. When I enrolled even into Alim course, if you asked me who are the Khulafa Rashidun, I'd be like, what language are you speaking? I do not even know the most basic of basic stuff. He made us just cover like, and even him, like just Quran class, I didn't engage with him further. That was just me. I'm not really like the inquisitive type. So I didn't go to the masjid for programs, because my mom was very heavily influenced with me and going to the masjid. So she would drop me off for salah and stuff like that. But I grew up with like the classic Desi dad of, he's working majority of the time. And when he comes home, of course, you interact with him, you do that. But that's it ends there. So masjid wise, the only benefit I had growing up was I went to a Christian school. And on Fridays, they would end class instead of at 2:30 at 1:30. So I did get to, from a young age, I got to attend Jummah khutbahs.
Nice, mashallah.
But as a kid, I mean, again, how much are you going to pay attention to those? I was just looking at the building. I'm like, yo, okay, this is nice. I'm out of school. I'm vibing. Maybe I'll get a pizza afterwards or something. Yeah. But religion in a practical sense, like meaning practicing and also like knowledge-wise, it was very absent from me. It had a lot to do with just my interactions with it was very positive. That's why I liked religion. But I never identified with religion. I just liked, because honestly speaking, I interacted more with Christians than I did with Muslims my first 7 years of my life, because 1st through 7th grade, I'm in a Christian school. So I actually have more of a positive image of Christians than I do of Muslims, because I see them more often. But alhamdulillah, I mean, it didn't get to a point where I like wanted to move to their side or anything like that. I didn't have any doubts of faith or anything. I don't even know if you could say I would have doubts of faith, because I didn't even establish faith. I was just in a neutral spot. So during Hifz, again, it was nothing like I was getting better in terms of my iman or anything like that. It was very much, I just saw it as memorizing Quran and memorizing Quran alone. It's kind of weird. That's just how the vibe though is in Florida. We don't have a iman raising atmosphere or something like that. You just do what you do, you live your life, and that's it. So it's a little different.
MashaAllah. Essentially, your mom just asked you that, hey, do you want to do this? Your friend, your homies, your boys, everyone's there. And you said, labbaik, let's make it happen.
I had just started maybe 8th grade or 9th grade. 8th or 9th grade.
Probably like 14, 15-ish.
Yeah, I was always 1 year oldest in the crew. So yeah, around like 13-ish. So the beard started kicking in right when Hifz did.
Nice, mashallah. You mentioned Mawlana Kashif. right? And you mentioned that he came from California. Can you give us a little bit more background about him?
So Mawlana Kashif is the current Imam of Irving Masjid, which is located in Dallas. It's one of the major masjids in Dallas. A lot of people have heard of Epic Masjid, affiliated with Sheikh Yasir Qadi. Valley Ranch Masjid, which is affiliated with Sheikh Omar Suleiman. Irving Masjid is another one of those mega masjids in design. He plays the role of imamat over there. They have like 3 branches over there. They have education, dawah work, and tabligh, and they have the masjid side, the imam front. So he's in charge of that. But he's technically speaking, I'm guessing he would be somewhat involved in the other branches as well, just not nearly as much. So that's currently where he resides. Alhamdulillah, I got married in Dallas, so my wife is from Dallas. So every now and then, whenever I get to visit my in-laws, I also get a chance to visit him as well. So he's in a very good spot. I'm really happy that he's in the spot that he's in, because he's against somebody that I respect a lot. And to see him now, it makes me very happy, just because I'm like, people like, you like to see that when people that deserve to get recognition, when they get it, you feel really happy for them. So I was happy to see, alhamdulillah, the moves that he's made. And even he's done ifta even post Alim course. He did complete his ifta sometime in the middle. So technically speaking, yeah, he's Mufti Kashif. So that was also something really nice that I saw from him, that even after studying, it's not like, once you graduate, like that's the be all end all. Oh, you didn't become a mufti? Oh, okay, then ifta is not for you. He was somebody that showed me that no, you can continue. It's just like college, right? College, you can be 20 years old or you could be 50 years old. Like there's no limit to it. So I also got really inspired by him, just even though I'm not really too encouraged to do ifta, but the fact that he did it afterwards, it kind of planted that seed in my mind. Like, okay, it is possible though, even with a family, with a big role in a masjid. That's something that it is something that you can do.
So Mufti Kashif, he comes from California to Florida, starts up a Hifz program. What was the overall feeling walking into it, or how was it after, say, a month into the program itself? Were you, because you're now away from schooling, I'm assuming, and what was the schedule like?
Our initial year had a certain schedule, and he adapted it the second year, maybe to accommodate us a little bit more for schooling. First year, what we did was our schedule was at 8 o'clock. You come into class till 9:30. You say your sabak. If you don't say it by 9:30, you're done for the day. 9:30 then to 9:45, small little break just for snack. 9:45 then all the way to 12. That's when you say like your, I don't know what people call it, subki, sabakjas, whatever you call it. That little phase, the attached lesson, you say that during that time. Then you go for lunch for about 30 minutes. 12:30 then to 1:30, we are essentially going to be starting our door. Usually our door is split into 2 parts. One is the most recent part, which you say a short part of, and then the longer part, you can say that part after Dhuhr, so you pray Dhuhr at 1:30. 1:45 you come back, and from 1:45 to like 2:30ish, you finish the remaining lesson, whatever it might be. And then at 2:30 you go home. My friends, a lot of them, they stayed on campus. They went to the back area of the masjid to do homeschooling. My mom preferred, she's much more hands-on. She does not like, she was like, with this, since she had the opportunity to be a little more hands-on, she wanted to go full in with it. So I would go home, and I enrolled in this program. It was a Christian-based program where basically they send you pre-recorded videos and you watch the class, and the video, it's as if they recorded with students watching in mind, meaning they actually address you. Like the teacher says, oh, students watching, what do you think this answer is? And they would leave like brief pauses, and the students would have to get up from their seat, turn around like this, face the mic, and then answer the question. So this is 2003 technology or something. This is really old. This is not like in the modern day, like YouTube era or anything. This is like way back. They had the foresight to do that, which is, I think, props to that school, Abeka Academy. So props to them. So that was my homeschooling. It would take around 3 hours to complete it. By then, it's like around, I would start like immediately, like right after class. I would just like eat a little bit, start around like 3:30-ish. That would be around till 6:30 I would finish. If I felt the need, I would go, because we also do have Quran classes at the masjid from 6 to 7. 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. If I felt the need, I would go mainly just to play basketball because a lot of the guys would come for basketball. I wouldn't go for class because I was like, yo, I'd study in the morning. But I would come I would look at my Quran a little bit. And then I would just go there for basketball, a little play. And then day's pretty much done. Come back home, do everything, the rest at home.
Wake up, repeat.
Wake up, repeat. Monday through Friday, that's the schedule. Saturday off. Okay. And then halfway through, our Hifz teacher said, I don't know what caused him to do this shift exactly, but we actually started doing class after Fajr. He's like, just come for Fajr now from now on. And so this is one of the few schools I've ever heard of actually doing class after Fajr. So we're waking up. Imagine that teacher gets the reward for all of it, right? We're waking up at the Hajj time, we're reading Quran. I mean, it's because of him we're doing it, right? So he's getting all that reward. We're just trying to survive. Like I'm trying to like read myself back. I'm like, my mom's like waking me up every 10 minutes, like, yo, get up. I know you didn't memorize nothing yesterday. I'm like, whatever, man. All right, so we go for Hifz class then. So my dad, he got to drop me off at Fajr time. We're there for like 4 hours. And he reduced it. Literally, he's like, no breaks. 4 hours of straight content. Sometimes we would do like a 20-minute. He would just like go for chai, go to his house, which was on campus. And that was like his break he made for us. He didn't make it like an explicit break. He would just go at a certain time every day. But it was like some days where he felt like, oh no, these kids are horrible today. I'm not going home today. I'm just going to call my wife. She's going to drop off the food to the masjid. I'm not going to give him a break today. So we would have class literally then from 6 to 10 a.m. And then 10 a.m. onwards, however you want to fix your schooling, you would do it. Usually I would end by like 1:30 then back then.
So in essence, you were never, or you always had both in terms of homeschooling and Hifz.
Yeah, both of them alongside each other.
Okay, mashallah. Was there ever a point like during your Hifz where it became so challenging and difficult where you wanted to stop?
Oh yeah, I wanted to stop. It was during the Fajr era. It was like 30 minutes before Fajr. Like I had to leave, and I just told my mom like, and I just called her over. She was like, as you know, like the moms, whenever you're doing homework, they're like looking on the side, and then you're just like uncomfortable because you know they're watching, and you know you don't want to read, so you're just like looking like this. I'm like, yeah. So one day I'm just looking. I'm just like, I told her, I'm like, I know can you just come now? just stop the hiding. Can you come for a second? And I just broke down. I'm like, man, I'm not motivated. I'm not enjoying. I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm not really finding it enjoyable. And for me to do something throughout my entire life, I have to enjoy it. And when I enjoy it, I'm going 100%. I'm going all in. I will dedicate my entire day to you. If I enjoy what I do, I will give you everything. I will leave out any other thing in the world will not mean anything to me anymore. If I enjoy something, that's just how I do it. But if I'm not, it's so challenging for me to find the motivation then to continue. And I told her that I'm like, it's so difficult right now. I do not want to do this anymore. And in Florida, again, we're not built up, like no one's telling us this thing of like, oh, the rank of the Huffaz is such, and you know, like no one's hyping us up or doing anything. We're literally just, it's our own motivation and our friends. And I've seen during Hifz, of course, I mean, everybody knows you might walk in with 20 classmates. You're going to walk out by the time you finish. There was 4 of us. There was 5 of us, right? Yeah. So many of my friends, they moved on. They're going to their normal life. I'm like, well, I guess that sounds kind of nice, honestly. I mean, I did a good amount. And I don't understand the rank of what a hafiz is. So I'm like, I mean, I did what I wanted. I did a good chunk. I don't see the harm in just leaving.
And this is at how many juz?
This is like 15 in. I'm like halfway through. I'm decent chunk in.
Yeah. So what got you over that hurdle? You
know, for me, to be honest, it's just my relationship with my parents is very different. I don't know. I don't want to say different. Everybody feels like that with their parents. I'm very much, though, when it comes to my mom and dad, if they say something, I just shut up and do it. That's just how, I don't know why, with them, no matter what I do in life, I've never felt the right to say anything to them. Like comment, if they tell me to do something, I don't have it in me. Like my mom knows, like if we have any situation at the house, I never built up that energy to like stand up for somebody or like do something. I'm like, if dad says it, if mom says it, that's it. I'm not going to do anything. Mom just gave me a little pep talk and I just was like, mom said it. I just have to keep going. And I don't know the logic. I don't know the reason. I don't know whatever, but my mom wants me to do it. Mawlana Kashif is the only guy that I like from this space. I'm like, he's not going to be happy. and I guess you could say that's like kind of like unfair, like, oh, that's like you're just guilting yourself into doing it. But I was like, I never had an interaction, alhamdulillah, like when my parents were, they ever let me down with a decision. Like if I needed to make a decision, they let me do it. They always had, I never lost my parents' trust. And from their side, they never lost my trust. They never said for me to do something where, they afterwards, I felt like, oh, they unfairly made me do something, or they making me do something that's beyond my capacity. Like I've never had that happen in my life. So I'm like, she said it. Maybe you're gonna have ups and downs with regardless of whatever type of thing you're gonna study. And I just felt like, man, maybe this is just a down day. Yeah, I'm not motivated, but maybe this is just how it happens. This is just how it works. I don't know how life works just yet. Maybe this is just, if my mom is saying to keep doing it, I'm just like, all right, just keep grinding. Let's just keep doing it. I still got some of my friends. Again, I place a lot of emphasis on friends unnecessarily. I put unfair pressure on them as well. I'm like, yo, if they're there, I have to do it. I got to keep going. I got to be with them. So I put that pressure on myself. Alhamdulillah, it worked out. So especially because my Hifz teacher, he was Mawlana Kashif. He did get the call to actually, he had to go back to California. His parents, they called him back. So for whatever personal reasons, whatever it might have been. So I was like, man, if I'm going to finish, I have to finish under him. Like there's nobody else I want to finish under. Yeah. So I did the class. Looking back, this is a moment in time, even to this day, if you ask me, I don't know if I made the right decision to this day, if you ask me, truthfully speaking. But he's leaving and I have a good chunk left. And so like everybody, all right, man, let's just forget door. Let's just go. We're going straight sabak every single day. I'm going to go in. Like, yeah. So I decided to do that. And alhamdulillah, I mean, I was able to finish with him and I was very happy. But to this day, I still wonder, was that the correct move? Was I too greedy with what I wanted to accomplish? Because obviously the number one thing with Quran memorization, any good Quran teacher will tell you, it's all about the revision. It doesn't matter when you finish. You can finish as late as you want. Please don't feel this unnecessary reason to finish. There's no medal you get. There's no special pride, I don't know, in finishing young. I don't know why. Some people, they think that way. And I wish I had maybe someone to tell me at that time. But again, we're in Florida. There's nobody else there. We are the first Hifz class. We're setting the standard. So we don't, the OGs, they're always the one that have to suffer everything, right? We're the ones that have to tell the next group, like, okay, these are the struggles that come with it. These are the expectations. And this is how you kind of curve the responsibility. But alhamdulillah, I finished for better or worse. And I mean, I was happy without a doubt. I got to finish with my Hifz teacher. I always have that connection now with him forever. But obviously, once that's done, the main thing is now it's the weight of the job. Like, okay, you are officially Hafiz Yusuf. You are officially, whatever title, Hafiz Sab, whatever it might be. So that comes with its own set of responsibility.
So then how was Dor?
So he left about 1.5 months before after I finished. I still had some time to do Dor with him. So I got to see an example of what a good Dor looks like. And that was done with my cousin Hafiz Usman and my friend Hafiz Usama. They finished before me, about 3 months before me. So I got to see what a good Dor looks like. And to this day, I will say, yeah, Hafiz Usman, my younger cousin. I'm the oldest out of all the cousins. We only have like 6-7 cousins, but I'm the oldest. But when it comes to Quran, I'm definitely very much, I look at him because what he did and what Hafiz Usama did was basically every single month, the first month, do 1 juz every single day, do a Quran khatam. Second month, we're doing it 2 juz a day. We're finishing 2 Qurans in a month. Third month, they did 3 juz. And then that last month where I also finished and I was doing Dor, they didn't do 4, they did 5. So that final month, they did 5 juz every single day for a total of around 6 khatams because he made them do it every single day. And I'm telling you, this is the basis of what they did. And I know because I interact with Hafiz Usman quite a lot for life. That investment that he made in those 4 months, taking it seriously that entire summer, to this day, he's profiting. If you ask him, and I've seen it because I was eating tarawih with him one year. You tell him before the salah, hey, I didn't do this part that well. Can you just do it? quarter juz in Taraweeh, regular people will not know what level of dedication that takes to learn even a quarter for Taraweeh, man. It's not fun. It's not easy. This guy, okay, let me know which one. Give me 15 minutes before Isha. Just don't talk to me. I'm going to look it over. Okay, we're good. And he's leading it. And I'm like, all you need is right after you finish, you got to hit the iron while it's hot, man. When you finish, do not think that, all right, once I'm finished with Hifz, okay, I'm just going to start my college or whatever it might be. No, 4 more months, just dedicate 4 months. You know, like people go for 4 months after they finish Alim course or whatever for Tabligh. It's 1 year for everybody else besides me, yo. Mawlana Deeb, Mawlana Sulaiman, Mawlana Dawood, they're going to carry me for that. So 4 months is all you need, man. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but if you do a serious door, like 1 juz consistently, 2 juz consistently every day, if you can level up to doing 5 juz a day for a month, it can carry you for life potentially, depending on what your interaction afterwards is with the Quran. But from what I've seen, it has a very big effect. That immediate phase, what you do right after you finish, that is what makes and breaks a lot of people's Hifz and their success with it.
How was it reciting? I mean, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it usually when I speak to people about this, but how was it reciting or leading up to reciting your last sabak, and then the day you're given that title of being a protector, a hafiz of Quran?
Definitely the 2 best days of my life. First one is Hifz graduation. The second one is Alim course graduation, because there's nothing like it. And in Hifz, I'm not even in a Dini background. I'm not Islamic in any way, really, knowledge-wise, or even practicing-wise. Not much, man, honestly speaking. But you feel a wave, though. You do feel something. You're like, this is not normal, what I've just done, what I'm doing, when you're reciting it. When you see people, that, like when I saw the gathering themselves, and that's when I truly felt the weight of it. I was like, I didn't feel it before that because there was no hype or anything behind it. Because again, we're the first products. But when I saw the graduation day, that's when I felt like at my happiest, but also kind of like, oh man, this was... maybe I should have thought a little bit more about this instead of like maybe I should have played RuneScape a little bit. I was like, man, I was thinking, I'm like, this is something, man. That final sabak, it had a lot of weight to it. It was the most simplest. I mean, I did last 2 juz and then do first 28 and like that. So last I had was 28 juz. So reciting that was pretty surreal. So when I did it, that final lesson, when I finished in front of my, I did it private. I don't know if that's a common thing. You finish privately, right? I don't know. And then at the graduation day, you just, for the sake of it, you read the last sabak again.
Oh, I've seen places where, like in the classroom, so like someone's finishing today, so they'll finish like right before Jummah namaz.
Okay.
And then they'll announce it at Jummah, and then they'll have like a formal graduation later.
Okay. Because I did a graduation party, meaning like we had like a thing at a park. And that's how we did it. It wasn't announced at the masjid. It was just you were invited to go to the park. And then I had like a lot of the close family and relatives and things like that. So I finished with my Hifz teacher and I was by myself. I didn't have any of my classmates at that time because it was just custom lessons. And he was getting close to leaving at that time. So he was also just like, just come and you can finish. And he gave me a talk at that time. Obviously, I don't remember it. But he did give words of encouragement. And he actually was the person that mentioned to me while I was in that final phase. With the other students, he saw with like certain students that he didn't mention much in terms of progressing forward with your studies. Like he didn't say like join Alim course or do anything like that. Again, these words are foreign to us anyway. We don't even know what that means. But he said, continue your studies further. Like he would mention that to certain students. And he mentioned that to me. And I do remember, again, he did mention that at that time again. So obviously, parting words, those stick with people the most. Yeah. From what I understand, even when people pass away, they remember those words from that person passing away more than anything else, that memory that they have. So those were like the parting words I had from Imam Sahib, Imam Kashif when he left. Those are the remaining memories. Those were like the main memories I had. He said like that was one of the final things he told me, like study further. I don't know what that means, but I'm like, okay, I'll worry about it when I got to worry about it. So I was in 11th grade when I finished. So I just took 1 year to finish 12th grade. And then that's when I kind of started thinking a little bit more, okay, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah. So like, how did that spark in your mind?
So I finished, I was 12th grade. I wanted to finish homeschooling. I didn't want to go back to school because, again, my friends are not doing it. So I'm like, why should I do it? Right. So they're still doing homeschooling to finish off. They're still in that phase. So I'm like, I'm not going to join regular school by myself. I don't even know how a public school works because I've been in a private Christian school for 7 years. And then I was in a madrasa and a masjid for 4 years. I felt like I'm going to be so out of place. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to public school. I'm just going to low key finish my homeschooling just the same way I've been doing it. And then maybe take Quran classes in the evening. So I finished my homeschooling, and by this time, yeah, Mawlana Kashif, he's left. And again, not much in terms of Dini sciences or anything. Still haven't studied anything. I don't know much at all. But we did have one brother, brother Abdur Rauf. He's in charge of ICNA Helping Hand, and he plays a very big role in Chicago. He came recently to Chicago, so I'm sure people who are listening, if they work with ICNA, they know who this brother is. Brother Abdur Rauf. He's an amazing person, and he told us, why don't you come and why don't you go to Connecticut with us? We're going to do a drive to Connecticut just for ICNA. So I said, okay, that's cool. I don't got nothing to do. I'm finished. I don't have much to do in my life right now.
Convention?
Yeah, the ICNA convention. So I'm going. It's chill. We're going over there. It's nice. We're setting up our booth, which it did win best booth in that year. So I'm very proud of that. I was involved in the best booth of ICNA 2011 something. I'm sure every year they probably do a baller setup. So I'm looking at all the shops, and I'm looking around, and I see one of the booths. It's IIE on one side, Institute of Islamic Education, and on the right hand side, it's Darul Online. And they have a booth on opposite sides of each other. So I'm going, and Mawlana Abdul Rahman, he was in charge of the IIE one at that time. I think he bought some students over, but I didn't get to see them. I think Ibrahim Osman, he was there. But it was Mawlana Abdul Rahman. So I just asked him, what is this? And Mawlana Abdul Rahman, in his English, he's explaining it to me. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is a nice flyer and stuff like that. And I like it and stuff like that. So I kept it. I didn't think much of it. I just kept it in my pocket, and I went back to Florida. And my mom's kind of like, all right, beta, like a lot of time has passed. I was doing Hifz class. Again, I re-enrolled in Hifz just to work on my door proper version with Mufti Rashid, which is 1 hour away. Mufti Rashid and Mufti Mawlana Kashif, Mufti Azhar. I do want to mention these three people on the podcast just because these three people, they are what made West Palm Beach survive. Like Fort Lauderdale area, they are the reasons why they're, in my opinion, why at least we had some beacon of hope, man.
So for listeners who may not be familiar with the names, can you give a little bit of background about each one of them?
So Mufti Rashid, currently, he's in charge of Madinatul Ulum Institute, I believe. He does a lot of work there. And he, alongside Mawlana Kashif, they both started Hifz classes around the similar time. So he has a lot of products that came out through him in Fort Lauderdale region. So by now, he had a lot of his students have actually graduated, like from Zakaria or Azadville. A lot of the crew, they went to South Africa. So like in Chicago, maybe you guys know of like Maulana Imran. He teaches at Dar es Salaam. He's a product of that area, I believe that region. The rest of them, they stayed in Florida, like Maulana Zaid, Maulana Hamza. These guys, they decided to stay in Florida. So Mufti Rashid, he's done that. Mufti Azhar, I cannot tell you off the top of my head what institute he's personally associated with. But Mufti Azhar, if you're a native in Florida, you know who Mufti Azhar is. First off, because if you like basketball, Mufti Azhar is on a next level. He's one of the few Maulanas that can actually ball, like legit. Meaning he can actually play N1 if he wanted. His crossover is killer. Nice. He is a baller for sure, without a doubt. Even to this day, I bet. So Mufti Azhar, I'm part of a lot of ulama group. Every single day, he has a program he's hosting on Zoom. He's hosting people all nationwide. He's doing programs. He does a lot of effort, man. His motor is always on. This type of dedication that he has. So these three individuals, again, they played a really big role in Florida. Mawlana Kashif, Mufti Azhar, and Mufti Rashid. So I'm in a class with Mufti Rashid for Quran class for just to kind of make up for the time because I'm not doing anything. So I'm like, let me just do door with him. So that was a very effective door. The 2011 door that I had with him, that was probably the strongest my Quran's ever been. It was through Mufti Rashid. His technique, the way that he teaches it, the way that he engages the students, it's phenomenally done. My Quran, I don't think it's ever been better than when it was when I was with him. So alhamdulillah, I'm really thankful for him. And I have that frame of where my goal is. Like whenever I think of when I do my door, even now to this day, I'm like, I want it to be like how it was in 2011 with Mufti Rashid. Like that's always my goal. Whenever I open it up, I want to go back to those days because I felt so fluid with it. I felt like I was not, no pressure if someone ever asked me to recite. So alhamdulillah, I'm really thankful for that. So I'm now at a point where I now interacted with a madrasa informally at ICNA convention, but my mom's kind of like, you haven't really committed to anything. Let's have you starting the college process then. You've been finished with high school for a little while. Let's have you enroll in the spring semester. So I said, okay, let's go for it. So I'm going to college. I did the orientation. And now the next time I go, I'm supposed to enroll in classes. So I can't drive by myself just yet at that time. Or I don't know why. Maybe I just wanted my mom to go with me. Whatever the reason might be, we're on the drive there to the college, PBSC. And again, I cannot explain to you why my brain does not have any logic behind it. But we're driving. And as we're driving, I just tell my mom, I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. What is happening, bro? This is like some fake stuff. Like people think like, oh my God, did revelation happen to you? Did something? I was like, no, I'm just a guy of feeling. Like I just have to have the feeling of it. I have to really be into something to do it. And I'm like, college, I don't want to go to college. I want to pursue further. And what Mawlana Kashif told me before I left, I want to go into like Islamic sciences. Again, do I have any knowledge of Islamic sciences? No. Did I ever take a class ever in my life? No. But it was just, again, I'm looking at who he was as a person. I'm like, I love this life that he gave us. Like he kept us in check. Like the year that he left, I didn't mention it, but like when he left, our masjid didn't have anybody coming in. Like no imam could fit into our masjid personality. Every masjid has personalities, and nobody was clicking with our masjid. Mufti Rashid did not want to. Mufti Azhar, he had his own thing set up. He's not gonna. And anybody that came in for an interview, nobody lasted. And so as that's happening, we're getting exposed to normal life now. Like interacting with normal people outside of the masjid. And, one by one, a lot of my friends, what happens when you get involved with regular people, you get involved with regular people problems. And regular people problems are much more sadder on the scale because you get exposed to a lot of more dangerous things. And so, that type of lifestyle, and you know what I'm talking about, when you get exposed to certain opportunities to take certain type of things, all that kind of stuff, it was being opened up to them. And I see I'm like, man, 1 year Mawlana Kashif is here and I'm just thinking everything is so nice. 1 year he leaves, 2 years he leaves. And I'm like, I don't have that feeling of whatever I had. I don't know what it was. It was some type of Islam because I felt good about it. I'm like, I don't have that anymore. I don't see it in my friends anymore. Like we don't have that feeling of Islam because again, we don't have the knowledge of it. We just had the feeling of it. That's how we grew up in Florida. So I told my mom, like, I want that. I want to be for my community what our community lost. And like, it's not fair. And I hated it. Like growing up, I always hated being the oldest guy. And my mom always said, Yusuf, you look the biggest wherever you go in a gathering, bro. You're big as heck. I'm width and length. I'm just big, right? So always unfairly, I'm always put in a spot where I had to be the guy, right? To like lead prayer. I'm like, my friend, Hafiz Osama, I will listen to this man's qira'ah over anybody else's. Is it better than everybody's in the world? No, but I have such a connection with him that I love his recitation more than anybody's. And that's how it is with his classmates. We can all attest to that. his classmates loved listening to each other because we just love our imperfections, our recitation methods. So I'm just like always put in a spot where, I was like, Osama was like, no, you just lead, bro. You just do it. You're the big guy. I was like, all right, whatever, man. So I'm like, man, I realized that if you want like change, if you really love something, if you really want to change it, maybe you're not always going to be worthy, but if you're put in a position to do it, you just man up and you should do it, right? And I was like, our community, it needs something. We lost something. I have at least the model of it. It's Mawlana Kashif. That's what I want to be. Every single aspect. That's who I want to be like. I'm like, I have at least a model, and I know he's not going to ditch me if I call him up and ask him for advice. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be what he was for our community. I want to be that person. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I feel like that's right. And so I told my mom, and she's always been, whatever you want to do, beta, like you can do it. There's no pressure from us. My dad, we've never had a conversation ever in my life of what do you want to do next in life? He's just, I asked him once, like when I got married, I'm like, do you care who I get married to? Like I just asked straight up because I hear a lot of stories, like a lot of brothers and sisters, they really like, I hear stories, man. They're like, it's so hard for me to get married, bro. Like I cannot get married. Like my so-and-so is saying this, my this is saying that. I asked my dad, and my dad, he's very much like, I have no fear of any more person more than my dad. And my dad has so rarely yelled at me, so rarely done that interaction, but it's just natural, I guess, the father figure. And so I just asked him, I'm like, man, Dad, I recently asked him this question. I'm like, Dad, did you care when I brought, he's like, beta, like, I trust you. And that's it. Whatever you want to do, just do it. And I was like, my mom is the same thing. And I tell kids like this all the time, like your parents, if you feel like they're strict on you, again, it's because you didn't take that next level to gain their trust. Because if you really gain their trust, they see parents will open up to you, man. Like, don't have this image in your mind of, oh, my parents are from so-and-so. They're just always going to be like this. I'm never going to be able to go out at nighttime. I'm never going to be able to chill with my friends. I can't go out of state. I can't do this. I can't do that. My parents, they trust me, and I'm able to live the life that I want because they know that I will not exclude them from it. They know that they're a part of me whenever I do something. And I'm not going to put them in a compromising position when I want to do something. Yeah. I would never in my life put them in a position where their status has become lowered. That's just unacceptable. Like that's for me, you cannot do that. I would never be able to live with myself if that happened. So when I came to Alim course, she told me like, okay, if this is what you want to do, then I'm happy, and we're going to find a way to do it. So I showed her the flyer for IAE, and it was between IAE and a madrasa in Canada. I think Ajax back in the day. I don't know if the madrasa is still there, but I'm sure by name, a lot of people have graduated from there, though. It's really popular. So Ajax, the reason why I selected that place was because my mom's sister is there. And Chicago IAE, I chose it because my dad's brother is there. And so my dad, again, he's not in this environment of, again, like how none of our family really is. So I'm like, at least if I have my dad's brother there, he will feel a little bit of ease. Like, okay, if I'm at least not there, my brother is there and he will take care of him. So I said, okay. And so after having the discussion with my dad, my mom really had it. I didn't have it. Again, I'm not going to talk to my dad. My mom just did the hard work. She talked to him. She just said, and my dad just gave, like the approval, like you sit on the table after, the convo happened. Like I know my dad and my mom had the convo. So we just have dinner. And if dad doesn't say anything, all right, you got what you wanted. Like, it's like a good enough. Like, all right. So alhamdulillah, it worked out. So that was what got me into IAE. And fun fact, I did ask Mawlana Rahman later on, as I spent the years in IAE. I'm like, Mawlana Sahab, I'm wondering, are you going to be going to ICNA again ever to promote your school? He's like, Mawlana Sahab, it actually wasn't very successful. We didn't get any students from there. So he never knew that was the reason why I joined IAE. And I didn't have the guts to tell him. I'm like, bro, I was your one product, man. I didn't want to tell. I didn't want to make him feel bad, bro. Mawlana Rahman is Mawlana Rahman.
Dude, you should totally tell them, man.
He does not know that I was the one product they got that day. Like, they didn't get anybody else. I was the one guy.
Priceless, bro.
So I was like, yo, what can I say? It's right. You shouldn't go back. just relax. Just do local advertising. Rather unfortunate, but what can I say?
Oh, mashallah.
So that's how I got into IAE, though.
Nice.
And then going into IAE again, obviously, again, I don't know anything. I'm emphasizing this. I don't know anything. So when I'm entering this building, me and my mom are just super impressed by it, right? We're like, oh my God. And my mom just entering into the main hifz, where the lunch was served. We're entering into that's where the hifz classes were conducted. We got accepted, alhamdulillah, pretty easily. But now we're going in person to meet with the office, which was, as soon as you enter the lunch area on the left-hand side, the big room, that's where the office was. So I'm entering the office, and as soon as you enter on the right-hand side, it's Mawlana Salim. He's right there. And so, again, I have no idea what scholarship is, what anything is. I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's kind of cute. As soon as you enter, the owner's dad has let his dad stay over there, like to make himself feel like he's important, like he's a part of the business. So I'm looking at Mawlana Salim like, oh, that's cute. The dad is here. That's like that's so nice of the family to do that for him. And so I'm just saying salam to him, just like salam alaikum with my jeans on. And so I don't know, he probably wanted to slap me or do something. I'm not going to say nothing. He wanted to do an interaction with me, but he didn't do it. He just stayed quiet. So I'm like, okay. And then I just ignored him after. I didn't think much of him at all. Like, of course, afterwards, I'm like, oh boy. But at that time, whatever. Yeah. So I'm moving on to interacting with Mawlana Ubaidullah and also the office person at that time. We just tell them the forms, what's happening. How do we register? What do we need? All that kind of stuff. They tell us. Mawlana Ubaidullah gives us a tour of the entire madrasa. He shows us the new rooms that they created. The wudu rooms?
Yeah.
They were just made fresh that year. So he's telling us, like, we made these brand new rooms for the Alim course students because we've been having, alhamdulillah, a lot of new students enrolling this past year. So I'm like, wow, this is, again, I've never lived a day. Like every Desi kid, you never lived a day in your life outside of your mom's and parents' house. So I'm just like, okay, I mean, it looks like something. I don't know what standards are. Yeah. I'm like, it looks nice, I guess. It's 3 bunk beds. That's cool. 6 people in space. I guess that's normal in real life. I'm like thinking this is all good. So alhamdulillah, we got the tour and everything. Mawlana tells us when class starts and all that. So my mom stays in the area for like 3 days with my dad's brother, and after that I get dropped off, and honestly the rest is history at that point. I just had to figure out how to live on my own, which was another journey besides the Alim course.
Nice, mashallah. So you walk into this building and your mom just drops you off. You're very comfortable at this time. You're older and you understand kind of the responsibilities that you're about to take on, but you don't know anything to do with the coursework.
Again, yeah, coursework, very much, I'm just going to be, as I go, I'm going to find it out. My first concern was not even the day that I moved into the dorms. My first concern was still not the studies. I'm still not even thinking about the studies because, again, I have no idea what to imagine it to be. So my thinking was just don't think about it because, again, you're not going to be able to understand it. You got to wait till class starts. So don't worry about that stuff. Let's just focus on the main task at hand, which is, where are you living? What are you going to do? Like, you don't know anybody all of a sudden. You went from a place in Florida where it's friends over everything, and now suddenly you have no friends. Like, I have nobody here. Yeah. So I'm like, first day, I just go, and the wudu rooms, they haven't been opened up for us yet. They're still like fumigating it. They're still doing something. So we're in the right side, the ladies' musalla area and that building, we're over there. And it's not one person. It's not 2. It's like the entire Alim course, whoever dorming is in that building. Some of them got beds, some of them are on the floor. I'm on the floor that night. And I'm just like, I just looked, I'm like, yo, who here is in first year? I didn't know what it was even called. I just said first year. Who's in first year over here? And like Mawlana Yousuf Islam is there. So he's looking at me probably like, all these other older guys are probably just like, whatever. Whatever, right? So I find a first year classmate, Zubair and Bashir, and they're just like, bro, we're just like you. We have no idea what's happening right now. And I'm like, thank God. I was so happy. I was like, this is what I needed to hear right now. Yeah. Because again, my image, like how everybody's image is, I guess maybe madrasa, people who associate with madrasa a lot, maybe their image is different, but I'm coming from Florida, so I'm thinking this is the land of the holy I've entered, and I am now the center of the entire school. I am the embodiment of it. And I have this weight on my shoulders, like, oh my God, everybody else is going to be looking at me through this lens. And I'm just going to be that guy that everybody's like the odd sheep out. So I'm just like, when I interact with them, I felt like a state of at least comfort. Like, not like they're bad people, but they're like, okay, these guys seem just like me, like normal people. Yeah. The rest of them, I still was like, oh man, these are like elite figures, you know, like third year, fourth year students. Oh my God, probably like, I'm calling them imams. They're probably already imams because, again, imam is the only title I know. Yeah. I think if you're an imam, you're the most legit person in the world. So I'm like, these guys are all imams, bro. They're legit as heck. I'm not going to mess with them. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to do anything. So that first night at NIE, I at least got comfortable with my classmates. And then I'm like, all right, I at least have a couple friends. Yeah. Now it's on to the real part, which is the studies, which was the next day. And
so then how were the studies that first year? Because you're basically jumping into subjects that you have no idea about. You memorize the Quran, mashallah, but I'm assuming you have no background in Arabic.
No background in Arabic at all. Urdu is crusty beyond belief. Mm-hmm. And you know, actually, I don't want to say that. When I was in class with Mufti Rashid, just to backtrack to Florida, I did tell him that I'm going to join Alim course. So he did, for a little portion, he did mention to me, like, just come to me and we'll cover some basic books of Alim course. So he did it through the Urdu medium, though. So he taught me how, he was expecting me to do an Urdu to Arabic medium of classes. So he's teaching me how to read Urdu, and through the Allah Ke Rasool book, Allah Hamare Rab hai, Nabi Pak Hamare Rasool hai, Islam Hamara Deen hai. Yeah. Anybody who reads real Urdu, please, no, just don't. I don't need to hear it. I hear it all. I've heard it all my life. All right, so that was my experience with Urdu, and I got a little bit of exposure to fiqh, like fiqh al-Muyassar. Our teacher did expose us a little bit to it. So basic Islamic rulings from Tahara, I was at least exposed to. Yeah. And so now when I'm in the first year, on the first day, again, I don't know who our first teacher was. I think it was Mawlana Abdurrahman Quran Tarjuma. That is a vibe in of itself. It was very unique. It's very different because Mawlana Abdurrahman, regardless of whatever you say of overseas scholars and their English, when they are passionate about something and when they're good at something, it does show. And you do sense, like with Mawlana Abdurrahman, this is a person of the Quran. And there are stories about him. I'm not worthy of saying them. Other people will tell you. There are stories I've heard, legendary stories with him in the Quran that I'm like, this is something I don't even know how to comprehend. In a state of coma, he's able to recite Quran. There was like an incident that he had. He was in a coma and he was reciting Quran. And I'm like, this is like, I don't know what piety is, but it has to be some form of this, whatever it was. So Mawlana Rahman, he was very enjoyable. We had Mawlana Abdul Hakim. I don't know where he is now, but he was our surf teacher. Surf is, again, like conjugations with words, like taking a word and then subtly changing it to then make it mean something a little different with verbs. So we had him for a teacher. He seems more like a philosophical type of teacher. So surf was not his subject naturally, I would say, like to get the most benefit out of him. But again, when you're that type of figure, though, it was so enjoyable regardless. Like, he would teach us for like 10, 20 minutes the content. And then after that, just getting to know the personality was so much more beneficial for us in that first year. Because content-wise, again, the content is going to come. But for us in first year, it was more so just like building an understanding of their personalities. Like that for me was so much like it built so much more importance to the science. Like when I understood the people behind it, because then you want to learn it more. Like when you understand who the person is. And for me, this is like my first time interacting with scholars. So I'm really just soaking it in, just the scholarship, like who they are as people. And I'm like really enjoying that aspect. The sciences themselves, again, Arabic is without a doubt one of the more difficult languages to learn. Spanish, if you want to learn an easy language, learn Spanish. But if you want to learn a little bit of effort, something that has a lot of there's a lot of beauty and like learning it more and more. Like there's a lot of layers to learning Arabic, and as you learn the layers, it gets more and more beautiful. So us learning Arabic in that first year, that was the primary goal. And alhamdulillah, I had really good classmates that were able to grasp it much better than me. And because of them, I was able to understand it more. Like we had Mawlana Usman Fuad, again, somebody who I consider to this day, if I ever had to start a pretend madrasa, he's in my Arabic department. I want this man more than anybody else. I have this much trust in this man. I don't even interact with him much now to these days, but I know that this man has that grasp. And we had Mufti Zishan, which is a native to Masjid Usman. I knew Mufti Zishan from the first year. This is someone special. You know that you see someone special when you meet them, man. And I never say anything to his face because, again, it's not fair to say to somebody's face because, again, it's not good. But I would just say for everybody to understand this, he's one of the most sincere people I've met in my life. Sincerity is what I define as a successful scholar, like a successful person, because you can have smarts. I was exposed to a lot of mashallah, brilliant people. But sincerity is what differentiates the real scholar from just like a regular old scholar, like a graduate, I would say. And Mufti Zishan, without a doubt, all my classmates, without a doubt, the most sincere people I've ever met in my life. And it was because of them. I mean, I got carried throughout the Alim course again, because I'm, again, not a very motivated person myself. I go based off the energy that I see. I see that they're succeeding and I want to at least be with them alongside the ride, like at least mention my name. I don't have to be the top guy in the class, but at least if I'm alongside with them, I'm vibing, I'm chilling, I'm happy. You know, that's the kind of lifestyle that I have. I'm much more relaxed in that sense. I don't have like the great aspirations, which I guess separates the greats from the regular people, but alhamdulillah, regardless, whatever. I wasn't even supposed to be here, man. I want to tell you this much. Throughout my entire journey of Alim course, the people that I interacted with, all they would ever, a lot of people said to my face, they're like, you're going to be till third year. You'll survive till second year, and then you're going to be out. I had a teacher, somebody that I look up to, and when I told them I'm still continuing Alim course, they were so surprised, as if like they thought I would have left already. And I understood from that, like, and obviously they had a right to believe that because, again, like I said, I have no background in Dini sciences. I have no indication. If you looked at my life prior to Alim course, I'm going to be doing Alim course. I'm going to be passing it. So I didn't blame them, but at the same time, I looked at them. I was like, that served as some type of fuel for, continuing forward because I constantly needed that. I need outside influence to help me because me as a person, I'm too laid back to just rely on myself. I need that outside motivation, those outside factors to play a role in me moving forward. And my parents and my mom and my dad, they took a huge step back in terms of the talks for this because they're like, it's so left field for right field, left field, whatever you want to say. We cannot relate to it in any capacity. Nobody in Florida I could talk to about this stuff, right? I didn't have any of my support base for me anymore when I was in Alim course. So when I'm exposed to all the sciences, when I'm exposed to all this stuff, like my mom never mentioned, she just asked like, our studies are going okay? She's always, always motivating me, but she never talked explicitly because again, it's to us, it's like, we don't even know what to say to you. Like, what are you studying? We don't even know. My mom said, I have no idea what to say when people ask what you're studying. I have no idea what to say. And I was like, that was so hard for me because I was like, I have that support base that I built my entire life that carried me throughout the whole HIVs and my regular schooling. I didn't have that anymore. I was just by myself kind of. So it was kind of scary some years throughout Alim course to kind of get through it, especially with my laid back personality.
What were some of the struggles that you faced as somebody who was dorming at a madrasa, at an institution that's so far away from home, with limited breaks? What struggles did you face there, and what struggles did you face throughout the Alim course in terms of, like you're mentioning now, that certain teachers or one teacher didn't believe that you would continue forward? Yeah. Was there ever a time you wanted to quit?
There were many times. When it comes to dorming struggles, I think the main thing is I do believe that madrasas do have this question that they need to answer, which is when older students come, and this is a classic debate that, me and Mawlana Ubaidullah, we were always on opposite sides of the spectrum. How do you interact with students of a certain age when it comes to the younger age? And that obviously was what I felt was the biggest struggle. that you can be 20 years old, but suddenly when you're in madrasa, you're kind of on an equal footing with a 12-year-old in many respects, in terms of expectations of when to sleep, what you're allowed to do, what privileges that you have. And, you know, like when you grow up, as you're growing older, your parents always tell you, you know, once you do this, you get to do this. Once you finish this, you get to get this. And you're always told, once you finish high school, once you start college, you can start driving. You're going to get a smartphone. Back then, smartphones, they just started, like, you finally start getting them in open hands of like regular people. You can have privileges to go outside, you know, like with your friends and chill with them. Yeah. And so I finally felt like, man, I've done all the sacrifices needed to do this. I've always listened to my parents. I've always put what they said at that level, which it needed to be. I'm in madrasa. I've done what I felt needed to earn that respect. And now suddenly I have to build it up from the ground one all over again. And that was so difficult at a mental level. Like I had to restart everything. Like, none of the teachers know me, and I'm not somebody that they will become impressed by just naturally, because I'm not that person who's going to go out of my way. I don't even know what it is I have to do to be looked at in a positive light. So I'm just simply like, okay, all I know is my mom taught me one thing and my dad, same thing. And that's, if you're ever going to do something, you better be on time. I hate with a passion all of our family. If you are late to something, that triggers me so hard. Like I hate it so much. If someone's even a minute late, if you go a minute over your time, I will tune you out. No matter how motivational you think you are, I'm done with you at that point. I'm clocked out. So I'm like, let me hone this, what I've been taught. This is the only, this is what I have. What, life skills that I have, let me implement it and let's see how it goes. So I'm like, all right, in madrasa, you got to be on class at time, and you got to go to salah on time. Salah is important. And in madrasa, to build reputation, so your teachers know you're dedicated to not only studies, but also to the masjid. And to this day, I will tell you, throughout my entire Alim course, not because of me, but just because I always had this mentality of like, when class starts, you go together as a group. There are only a handful of days where I missed class, where I was not on time. I could not, maybe every single teacher can attest to the fact that I'm not that smart. I will agree with you 100%, but you could never say that Yousuf Ahmed was not there for class when he needed to be there for class. I hated to not being there for class. I was like, this is the least respect I can give. At least if I cannot satisfy my teachers with my knowledge, at least I can satisfy with that, right? That I'm there when I need to be, when they ask. And I was like, let me just prioritize that. And so that's what I did throughout my Alim course, especially during those initial years. So that's how I tried to at least gain a little bit of that respect. And alhamdulillah, because of that, then some of those struggles that I had in terms of like gaining their respect and like being able to do additional stuff, I always felt throughout my Alim course, regardless of, Mawlana knows, right? I go out more than anybody, and he knows that. He caught me one day when I pulled up into the 1280. He saw me. He was like doing his tawaf that he does outside the streets doing zikr. He caught me one day, and he's like, I was like, oh, yes. And he gave me a talk that day, like, why going out so frequently and stuff like that. But he always respected me. I felt, Allahu Alam, you can ask him maybe the reality. I think there was always the mutual respect, that because of the fact that I always showed respect to the class and to the salah and to what we needed to do when we needed to do it, that it opened up opportunities for me that I could, overcome those struggles that I was able to go out, and he did not really approach me much. I had that coveted smartphone that everybody wanted, and he never really said anything to me. I had all those things. They opened up for me not because of the smarts that I had, but because just simply I acted in a way where I felt like I gained their respect, and I was very happy about that. But when it comes to struggles, wanting to quit, of course, I don't know if it's right to say every Alim course student feels that, but how many moments stick out? 2 moments, definitely, I guess I should say. One of them, I don't openly say it very often, and not a lot of people actually know this, because again, I don't like to repeat stories. That's one thing about me. If you heard the story the first 3 times from me, you're considered it lucky, because I'm not going to say the story a fourth time, honestly. I get bored of it. But in my third year of Alim course, I'm with the whole squad. Mufti Nabil, Mufti Zishan, Mawlana Abdullah. We're all there. Alhamdulillah, we're chilling, we're vibing. And 3/4 of the way through, my mom does receive an email from the school citing there is, some difficulty, it seems like, with Yusuf when it comes to his grasp of the Arabic language, and he seems a little bit slower than what we would want him to be at. We would recommend him to continue with Hifz and just do Hifz class, and that would be what we would offer moving forward with him. Not so much progressing to the next year, fourth year of Alim course. So that year passes, third year passes, and I go back to IE the next year. And so my understanding was I did not do very well in two books, maybe 3 books. I think it was 2 books. It could be more. But anyway, I'm like, I can come into the year, maybe do like a makeup exam type of thing, and then I'll be back with my boys. I'll be back with the guys that, again, these guys are now not just friends. When I befriend somebody, they're like brothers. Just like Florida, I have my brothers. In Chicago, I have my brothers. Do or die, whatever they need. Whenever I've needed something, they've done it for me. And so they're my life. They're the reason why I'm in Chicago. I've built a relationship with the teachers, but again, I'm more so with friends. That's who I build my motivation through. And so I don't know who it was. One of the teachers mentioned that just, you're not going to move forward to the next year. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate that for you. And so you're going to have to repeat third year. And it didn't sink in at that time when they said it. Obviously, when you hear shocking news, a lot of times it takes time to comprehend it. Yeah. And for me, it was not really registering what that meant. I'm just thinking to myself, okay, what books are those? Okay, it's going to be a good year because I'm going to be able to study it. I'm going to do pretty well and I'll get to fix my fundamentals, things like that, whatever. And as I'm thinking about it more and more, I'm realizing what actually that means. And I'm like, Mufti Nabil, Mufti Zishan, at the end of the day, our closeness is because we're in such close proximity all the time. And now that's kind of been put away with because Mawlana Abdullah also, we're super close, but he went to South Africa, I think, by that year, his fourth year. And that was my repeat third year. He was in South Africa at that time. So I'm thinking to myself, and it's finally hitting me that, my friends they're going to be my friends without a doubt. But within that first 2 weeks, I understood. Like, I would go to their classroom, I would invade, I would be like, yo, what's up, guys? And all those things like that. And it hit me like they're not. There was a rift. Like they didn't make a rift, but there was a rift place. And regardless if I wanted to climb over it, I could do it. But I always felt like something has happened, and I cannot explain it to them. I didn't want to explain it to them because I didn't want to put them through that state of mind, like what I was going through. All men, they have this is their ultimate flaw, right? We keep things to ourselves and we just build it up and we don't talk about it. And it's our downfall usually. And so I didn't discuss it. I didn't say anything to them, but it felt so difficult, like that entire year. And I kind of felt bad as well because I'm like, no one really did any comforting. I felt like I was alone in that journey. And all I had was just, I had my new classmates, which I love. Mawlana Shahir, Darul Arqam, current student. He's a gem of a person, man. So unique. Mawlana Adib, never met a person like that in my life. We only had those two. Mawlana Sulaiman and Mawlana Dawood, they came later on. So I can speak about them as well, but they came a little bit later. But it's just me and those two guys. So imagine you have your brothers with you, and then all of a sudden the next year you're exposed to these great people, but they're not your brothers. They're not like formally as what you would consider your brother. And now I'm in this Alim course journey, and I'm like, I don't want to be here now. My friends are not here, man. I just don't want to do this now. And I'm like, you get that vibe like, okay, if you failed also, maybe who fails an Alim course? That's what I thought to myself. I never heard of somebody failing a year. I'm like, I think I'm the first person in the school's history. So I'm like, I'm already in a negative light forever. I'm the one that failed a year. Like, who does that? I'm thinking of myself, oh man, I'm not worthy. And those, we're our own biggest critics. So now I'm going in a super dark place. I'm just like, man, maybe those guys were right about me not being able to finish. And I'm just like, oh. And, everybody knows what was happening with the school at that time. So we're dealing with our own issues with the school overall. And I'm just like, man, maybe it was just, I needed the school to get in a good direction. And now I'm very comfortable as a Muslim now. Alhamdulillah, the school has taught me that. I have basis in, hadith, fiqh, aqidah we took. I have now exposure to these sciences. I have appreciation for scholars. This is what madrasa teaches you, and this is what you want to learn. Appreciation for scholarship, understanding that you don't know jack, and at least know the minimums. That's what madrasa, if you come out with that, you're successful. If you come out with something more, that's great. But this is at least what you should come out with. So I'm like, maybe it's about time I call it in because, alhamdulillah, I've gotten some benefit. Maybe now my friends are back in college. They've started college in Florida. Let's just hit them up. Maybe they can guide me. I don't mind being the oldest guy in college that didn't start. There are older guys than me that still have not yet started college. So I was kind of on that train. But again, I don't know if it was... I get inspiration from weird places. There's this one rapper, Killer Mike, and he said in one of his interviews, he's like, he said, your community, because he's a big native of Atlanta. He does a lot of stuff. He opened up a lot of barbershops in Atlanta. He does a lot of stuff for his local place. And he's like, I can't say verbatim what he said, but he's like, the needs of your community should be fulfilled by the community. Nobody from outside knows what your community is going through. Nobody knows the pulse of the community better than the community. And so when I hear his interview, I'm just like, I started this for a reason, man. And it wasn't for me. I'm feeling horrible. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling like I'm not worthy. But I felt that my entire life. How did I become a hafiz? I have no idea. I cannot tell. There's no logical explanation for it. How did I somehow enroll in an Alim course and get to this far? I could not tell you. There's no logic behind it. This is just Allah choosing you for something, and Allah makes the path. And it's up to you. Do you want to take it or not? So I'm like, man, regardless of however much I enjoy, I look at myself like I have to make the sacrifice, not for me, but for other people. So other people don't become something worse, right? So other people can at least have that opportunity. Maybe I can show them what it is like to be in front of scholars, be in front of, like scholars and ulama and people of that breed. Because, in our area in Florida, we don't have that. And maybe I cannot be that person who makes a difference, but I can show them that difference. Like, hey, I can show you somebody that can change your life for the positive, who can make you somebody who can change your life for the better. And so I was like, that was my only motivation moving forward. It was just the community. I was just looking at my community. I'm like, I don't want to pursue forward, but my community needs it, man. And alhamdulillah for Killer Mike. Honestly, he earns a place in my heart, man. He might be he's a gangster rapper, but bro, he made a big difference. And again, influence can come from anywhere. It comes from a myriad of places. I learned a lot of stuff, life lessons I've learned it from the shows I've watched, all these different types of things. I've learned it from scholars. I learned it from everywhere. Every moment you live in life is a learning lesson. It's just up to you to decide, did you learn it and how to apply it? So I felt that and I was like, man, I'm just going to continue. I'm not going to say I'm happy. Without a doubt, I was still not that happy that year. But I was like, there's a greater purpose being fulfilled if I continue. And honestly speaking, I was just like, if I do finish, it will feel so sweet. I was not in like the mindset of like, I need to be the top. But I was like, man, if I finish though, it will feel so sweet. I will have made a lot of people happy that mean a lot to me. And I put that as my motivation again, because me as my person, again, I cannot motivate myself, but I was motivated by my community, my hifz teacher, my parents. I was like, man, if I do it, it is for them. I would want to dedicate myself to my community, and inshallah, if that intention is accepted, I'll find Allah will make a way for me to finish, because thus far I don't know how it's happened, but if it does, alhamdulillah, it does. So that was the main challenge, was through that mid-year point. Third year afterwards, I don't know, honestly. Being exposed to Mawlana Shahir and Mawlana Adib, maybe that was, sometimes I felt like, I was the glue sometimes for them, for staying in madrasa. Like, I felt like we were so close then. We built this relationship, like, man, we need one another to continue. And I was like, maybe Allah made it such that because I got put back into third year, this is the way I justify it, right? We all justify it. So I was like, maybe Allah put me in third year back again, because Shahir and Mawlana Shahir and Mawlana Adib, they were the only ones left from the previous year that had, like 10 plus students. Now suddenly it's only 2 people. So I was like, maybe Allah put us together so we can be that, force that keeps us strong, because we needed that as well. So I just looked at it in that way. You try to make justifications like, all right, maybe this is the reason why, and let's just move forward. I got to think about why I started this in the first place. Let's just keep moving forward. So alhamdulillah, after that point, I was in a good place mentally. I was happy. Once you start progressing in an Alim course also, the sciences just get so much more beautiful, man. You're exposed to the sciences that you always wanted to study, like in your first and second year. You're studying hadith, you're studying seerah, you're studying tafsir, you're studying like all these things that you dreamt, like, oh my God, like Mawlana Mutawa, I was like dreamed of being in that setting where he was. I was like, man, that, I don't know what it is, but it's so cool where they're at right now, what they're doing, the way they dress, the way they look, everything just looks special. I was like, none of us embody that, the younger years. Like, there's something with those guys, man. I want it. I want to feel it, even if it's for a day. And so I was like, man, once I started feeling it, those were some of the best years of my life. Mawlana Deeb, he remembers too. We were there through the thick and thin.
How was your final year of studies studying hadith?
I remember Mufti Wasim, he taught us in second and third year, but he's like, he always mentions it's a surreal experience that throughout the day, you're just hearing, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would always hype that up. He would always mention that line, and he would always just give that example. That's all you need to hype up Dora year. The fact that literally it's a year dedicated to, you're just literally, you're not studying a fiqh, you're not studying tafsir, you're just studying through the lens of hadith. And so I'm like, man, that was the year that was, looking back at it, fifth year was my most favorite year of Alim course because of different reasons. Because I liked fifth year more because we were exposed to the highest level of tafsir, Jalalain. We got exposed to hadith through Mishkat, which is like a compilation hadith book. And we got exposed to fiqh, the highest fiqh books, which is Hidayah, and especially Buyu, which is the most difficult chapter. And we were exposed through that with Mufti Abrar. So because we were exposed to Mufti Abrar in our fifth year, I was exposed to the highest sciences of tafsir and hadith, essentially, as well, to an extent. My fifth year was my favorite. But sixth year, what made it was one man that my entire Alim course, I very stupidly, and like you laughed about a little in the beginning, that man that I thought was just in the office as Barakatan, Mawlana Salim, I don't know what it is, what type of mentality I had, why I was so dumb. I did not interact with him until that final year properly. And that year, if we didn't have nothing else, just interacting with him, and as all the students know, Mawlana Salim, every single day is a class day. So we're interacting with him on a daily basis almost. That was something that I would cherish for the rest of my life. I didn't like Mufti Nabil, Mawlana Abdullah. These guys got to go overseas, and it's giant after giant every single class. And without a doubt, in IAE, of course, there's giant after giant for us as well. But these are giants in the making. Mawlana Ubaidullah, Mawlana Sulaiman, Mawlana Ahsan. These are giants in the making. I truly believe that when I see them teach, it is a surreal experience. But when you're in Zakaria, when you're in South Africa, when you're in Pakistan, these are the giants. These are who we look up to. These are the guys that made it. They're the ones that you aspire to be like. And for us, we have that lone figure. We have Mawlana Salim. He has that weight. He has that expectation. And I was like, maybe it's unfair that I put that much expectations on him. Like I was expecting like a surreal body experience every single day or something. I don't know what it was. But man, just being with him every day in class made Dora year worth it. There's nothing like people like that in the world. You can't make them. They're just circumstance of their environment, man. I don't know what it is, but it's so special. He's a gem, and I was just happy every single day in class with him. Even though, again, Bukhari class is Bukhari is a scholar's book, man, and it was so difficult to study. Mawlana Dawood, Mawlana Sulaiman, even Mawlana Adib as well, they could grasp it, and I was grasping it as well, but it was so difficult. And Mawlana Sahab, his passion just showed, like when he taught, such a giant, but so humble in the way that he taught, man. Taking out time in class to say, just all of a sudden, he would be teaching, all of a sudden he would just stand up and he would go to his library and he's sitting on the floor, like with it, like sitting, I don't know, I can't explain to you the position, but he's just like sitting there and he's looking up stuff as he's teaching. He's taught for 20 plus years. He can easily just say, you know, like when you're teaching and you don't remember something off the top of your head, you kind of just glance over it, like whatever. To him, that's unacceptable. Like he has to give you the full experience, his full vigor and like scholarship. And he's giving that full thing to us, that full attention. And he's like giving us his full experience. He's teaching us in English. Again, that's not his first language. He could probably teach in Arabic better than he teaches in English, but he's doing that effort for us. And I'm just seeing that. And I'm just like witnessing. I'm like, man, this is greatness right here. This is something that I was not worthy of this. And I get to see it every day. I was like, man, I don't know how these guys overseas, they must feel blessed every single second. I'm like looking at just one, Mawlana Salim, and I was so happy. He made that year super special for me. And another class that was super special from an academic standpoint, which I really love, was Mufti Yasir's class and Sahih Muslim. Mufti Yasir, which I'm sure a lot of the previous guests they've also alluded to, he's the definition of somebody who can make oil into water. Something that cannot mix, he can make it seem like the easiest thing to you. He will make something that would require years of studying, research, dedication to, and he will make you feel like you're the embodiment of it. Like you're a PhD scholar of it by the time you exit class, and you still dumb as heck. You're nobody. But Mufti Asir just makes you feel a certain way, man. I don't know what he does. He can just do anything that he ever teaches. I will be in line to study it through him. I don't know. MashaAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this gift. I mean, he has that lineage through he's dedicated himself to this science, to teaching. And man, I love every single second being in his class, regardless of how intense it is. I'm never more tense than I am in a Mufti Yasir class, because at any second he'll call you out. You're sleeping. You're doing this. He'll call you out. He doesn't care, and you appreciate him for that fact, right? Because you know that he wants you to know, like, hey, I'm dedicating this time to you, and you should value it. He doesn't say it like that, but he makes me feel that, like, hey, this is a giant, and we're 4 people, and he's seriously giving us an hour every single day. Like, that shouldn't happen. And so Mufti Yasir, Sahih Muslim class, Kitabul Iman, from an academic standpoint, that was the class that I benefited from the most, and I enjoyed it so much. All the teachers give their flavorings. Mawlana Ubaidullah, Mawlana Sulaiman, Mawlana Ahsan. They're all enjoyable. They all have their passions, and it's amazing to see it in Dora year because they really let it out. Because in the younger years, you got to do a lot of tarbiyah with the students and stuff like that. But in the final year, you're just vibing with them, man. You're just like enjoying. And there's no like, during exam time, of course there's pressure. But outside of that, it's just so enjoyable, man. It's like a culmination of your efforts, and you feel like you're getting a taste of you're becoming a Mawlana. Like, that's when you really feel like, oh man, like Mawlana Mohi said it really well before he graduated. I remember he said something like, in a couple months, I'm going to have the same title as these giants that just taught me. And that's like, what did we do to deserve that, man? These guys are amazing. These guys are next level. And I was feeling that in Dora year. I'm like, man, I'm saying these same words that the teachers are saying. I'm going to be just like them. I don't know how this happens, man. It was so surreal, but I was so happy. The Dora year itself was just so nice. And Mawlana Sulaiman and Mawlana Dawood came. And those guys, they'll never know how much I respect them. I never said it to their faces, but those guys, man, it's beautiful to see people like that in your life. And if you ever get a chance to interact with them, I wish I could be like those guys. So then again, I'm just happy I'm affiliated with them. They're stuck with calling me a classmate for the rest of their life. Whether they like it or not, I was their classmate in Dora year. Nobody else can have that right to say that. Only I get that right. And man, it was just a blast being with those guys. That was an amazing year. That was something I really enjoyed. Even though whatever happens in your real lives, there were a lot of things that happened in my Dora year that were very tragic. And to this day, like I'm still recovering from certain things. But when you're in the class, all that kind of just goes away and it feels so good. Like you're just trapped in like the thing I love about madrasa is they're trying to make you relive a time which doesn't exist anymore. That's what madrasa really is. It's a time capsule when you're in madrasa. Why do they make rules like you can't have a phone in madrasa? Why do they do the bedtime? Why do they do all these things? They're trying to immerse you into a world that no longer exists. And that's back in the day. The way that Tulab in the past used to study, they're trying to recreate that for you. And so I felt so good about that because I was like, man, no matter what problems I go through, like in real life, when I'm in IAE, I don't feel that anymore. Like I felt like I'm away from all those problems. And yeah, when I go back to Florida, I got to deal with them again. Yeah, when I go back to Texas, I got to deal with them again. But at least right now, where I am, all I got to do is worry about what hadith are we saying tomorrow and make sure that in Mufti Asr's class, I'm not stuttering, right? And that felt super good, man. If that's all my worries, I'm chilling. I have no reason to complain in life.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. How was graduation?
Graduation...
Because you mentioned two things. You said two things that stuck out in your life was finishing Hifz and then finishing your Alim course.
Man, I'll never relive that speech because that speech, I did the bawling crying. And man, my cousin told me I looked ugly as heck. He told me I looked disgusting. And I did, man. I looked so ugly. I don't want to really relive that speech. But overall, it was so surreal, man. Since that day, I've never had a day where I was mentally exhausted as much as I was that day. I didn't do anything physical that entire day, but it was like the weight and everything was just like coming on me. And it was the understanding and all this emotions were just piling on and on. Like I was realizing what was happening on that graduation day. And it was just so surreal, man, because honestly, a lot of people, they say this, I don't deserve to be here. I was like, man, I don't deserve to be here right now. What I just now did, so many people doubted me. I had every single reason to not even continue. And I was like, man, I'm here right now. And it was just the whole day I needed it to process. I was the happiest I was in the world because, again, I had my Chicago family, I mean my friends, my Florida friends, from everywhere people were coming. And alhamdulillah, I can have a little bit of pride about this. Out of all the graduates, most people came from my graduation, bro. From all the classmates, more people came from my graduation than all the other of my classmates. And I'll just say the reason why, because people were just like, yo, I'll believe it when I see it with you, bro. There's no way you actually graduated. That's the reason why I think so many people came from my side. But I was like, man, when it happened, it was just so much relief, man. I understood that I was a nobody. Alhamdulillah, Alim course, it never made me feel like I was somebody. But at least that day, I felt accepted. Like that was my day. Throughout the entire Alim course, I never felt accepted because nobody ever really believed so much in me like that. I always had to do it myself and find the motivation. But I was like, at least on this day, no one can ever take that away from me, that I was accepted by the school, by the institution, by my teachers. And that was just, I felt that weight being lifted, but I also felt like a lot of sudden other pressures, because then you start thinking about, Mawlana Mutawa, he said it, and I always thought about it. He's like, you're going to go in a point in your life where when you graduate in Alim course, that day when you graduate, you're the most important person in the world to that audience, right? And the very next day, what's going to happen? You're a nobody all over again. What are you going to do? Right? So that weight was kind of creeping up on me that day. Like, oh man, I'm enjoying today so much. But I'm like, man, what am I going to do after this? Because I didn't mention this like right now, but I moved to Texas during this time. So I'm no longer, my motivation for Alim course, which was to dedicate to my community, I can no longer live that dream. And only Allah knows what is the wisdom behind that, right? My mom always, she's constant, whenever something bad happens, how do you say it in Urdu? Allah ke hikmat kya hai? I don't know. She says something, like along those lines. What is Allah's wisdom with this? I don't know. She never says it in a negative way. She's always saying it in a hopeful manner. I don't know what Allah's wisdom is in this, but there's something. Why didn't it work out the way that we wanted? Why is it I dedicated my entire life thus far, these past 7 years, because I had the repeat. Why did I have these 7 years and I wanted to go back to my community to serve them? And now I'm in Texas. My family moved to Texas. And at the end of the day, my family is more important than the community. Is that a bad thing to say? I don't know. Maybe somebody can, tell me about what they think about that. But I thought to myself, if my family is in Texas, I have to be in Texas, because I was away from them for 7 years. They let me do what I want. What kind of audacity is that now after 7 years, I tell them, hey, the place that you left, I'm going to stay there and you guys just stay in Texas. I'm like, there's no way. So, but I am thinking to myself, like, man, like that day was hitting me. Like, I'm going to go back, but I'm not going back to Florida. I'm not going back to the community that I know and I love. And every single day I want to dedicate to them. I'm going back to a place in Texas where I'm a nobody. And Texas is a huge place. It's not like Florida. There are Muslims on every single corner of the road. There's more Muslims, honestly, in Texas than there are in Chicago, I feel like. It was such a mental battle I had to play with myself. Like, what am I going to do now? And alhamdulillah, as time has passed, I've seen Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's vision, not vision, I want to say, but rather what Allah had in store for me. Perhaps this was better for me and my development, because maybe it's through adversity that we grow as a person. And maybe in Florida, I wouldn't have grown up to be something that would have been good for the community. So maybe inshallah in the future, if Allah wills, I can return when I'm more equipped to deal with a community. But right now, alhamdulillah, I'm in Texas. I'm teaching at an Islamic school. Maybe this is kind of like my training grounds right now. Because again, just because you graduate, it doesn't mean suddenly that you're at the same level as your teachers. Yeah, you're at the same, you're considered amongst them, but you're not. I'm from them, but I'm not amongst them. I don't know how to word it. One of those deep poetry people, y'all can think of how to word that stuff. I'm like amongst them, from them, whatever it is. I wasn't good in Balagha class. Mawlana Kamil, I let you down that year, but you still passed me. Yeah, it's all right. So that's just how it is. So alhamdulillah, I don't have any complaints though, because some people I've met in Texas, there are certain people I'm like, every place has gems, man. You just have to go out and find them, and you got to be lucky. I've just been blessed my entire life. I'm not, again, necessarily the smartest person, but I'll be the first to tell you, man, I know some of the smartest people in the world. I know some of the best people in the world. I will have arrogance with this, because alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to be with their company, man. And that's the one thing that I have like a little bit of pride over, that alhamdulillah, I have that opportunity. I hung out with these people. I have them in my phone book if I need them. I have them if I want to hang out with them. This past 1.5 weeks, I've been in Chicago. I got to reconnect with so many of them. And that forever will be something that I cherish. So alhamdulillah, however it works.
So you said you're teaching at an Islamic school. So after you graduated, you went to Houston, where your family is. Yeah. And then I'm assuming you just started working.
Yeah. So I started, I graduated, and that was around like May-ish. And then I needed to find work. So there was one institute, Darul Arqam Texas. They hired me for the summer for the Quran program. And I'll forever be grateful for them, because that was my first job ever. So forever, even if I don't go to them often, I am forever grateful to them. And Mufti Abdul Wahid, because he was part of the hiring. And so I'm forever grateful to him. I had that job. But obviously once the summer ends, I needed a real job. So I was in a tough spot. And one of my friends, he mentioned to me, why don't you apply to one of these Islamic schools? One of our other friends, he's also working over there. Why don't you just try that out? So I applied over there. And although it only lasted 1 year over there, I will forever be grateful to the administration over there because of their straightforwardness with me. Because I worked with them for about 1 month on a part-time basis, and then they said, Yusuf, we're gonna be completely honest with you. We don't have any need for you on a technical basis because we're hired on all we're at capacity with all of our positions.
Yeah.
But we like you enough. We like you so much that we see the potential that we want to hire you for the rest of the year. And for an Islamic school, after working with them, for them to say that was such a big deal. Iman Academy Southwest, for them to say that, because I know that Islamic schools are very underfunded for what they offer. Mm-hmm. And it's so difficult to run a school in America and the challenges that come with it. And for them to say that, even if it just ended after 1 year, they didn't hire me afterwards, it didn't move forward, I can never say a word of disrespect to them, because what they did for me was a favor. It was a blessing sent to me, because they told me, we have no reason to hire you. We shouldn't be hiring you, but we're gonna do it. And so alhamdulillah, that year it worked out. I got to work for that year. Then that summer I got married in July. Alhamdulillah, that worked out. And I didn't actually technically have a job lined up actually for the next year. So if uncle is listening, from my wife's dad is listening, this is the big exposure for me. I did not have a job technically lined up, but I had a lot of faith. And you know, and so I have to lead a Jummah khutbah, and I applied to a place 6 months ago, though. I did apply, obviously, to places. And so I applied to a school, another one, and we're in the parking lot, and I'm about to enter the place to lead Jummah Salah. And right before I do, the principal for a school hits me up. And she's like, Miss Sabuhi, Darul Arqam North principal. And so she's like, you know, we got your resume a few months back. We're interested in hiring you. Are you still available for the job? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, because my wife, she got her degree in education. So she's technically more qualified than me to teach, definitely, because that's what she studied for in college. So I told them, like, yeah. And my wife also, if you guys have a position open, my wife can also teach. So she's like, yeah, that's perfect. We do have another position open. So that summer, then it was around what? August, late July. We get the call, and right before Jummah Salah, that masjid, I forgot what the masjid is called, man. Oh, that's bad. It's one of those plaza masjids. That's why I don't remember the name for it. Allah knows my intention. I definitely make dua for that masjid, man, because it was accepted through that gathering, man, that majlis. So I got hired to that school, Darul Arqam North. And now this is now going to be, inshallah, my 3rd year working with them. I have a very good relationship with them. I'm very grateful to them, because that school made me, for the first time in my life, ever do something that I've never done before. And that was make like an actual goal. I don't make goals. I don't set like very crazy dreams. I kind of just live life as it goes. But that school did make me realize one dream that I want in life. And maybe Allah makes it accepted right now, maybe later. I said to myself, after teaching these kids, I teach Islamic studies, grades 6 through 12. After teaching there that first year, I said to myself, I want to be the best Islamic studies teacher in America. That was the first. I never said that in my life before. I never said it during my hifz. Yeah. I never said it. Like I said, I never said I want to do the best in my hifz. I never said it in my Alim course. I never said something like that before. But there was something, I felt this energy, like when I teach, especially like to those grades, or maybe it's just the students, honestly, who knows what it is, but there's this energy, like when I'm in that classroom, it's like, it can't be replicated, man. Like, it feels so good, like when you teach, especially to like those kids, and I see the need for it. And I was like, man, I always wanted to serve the community. And what better way to serve the community than helping out that next generation of Muslims learn their Islam? And I tell the kids this like all the time. I don't say it too often because I don't want to get them too feed their ego too much. But I tell the kids, like, you guys right now in 8th grade know more than me than when I was 20 years old enrolling in my Alim course for my first year. You guys do leaps and bounds over me. And I want you guys to understand that that's a very big thing, but also there's a weight to that as well, because I teach them, the same thing that madrasa teaches you. As much as you learn, understand that there's always somebody that knows more than you, and don't bring arrogance to the table when it comes to dini sciences, because arrogance is the killer of all success when it comes to our science. Yeah. Because people will be able to filter you out when you have arrogance. I don't care how much success you think you have, you don't have real success, because people sense it. They feel it when you have a real person that's sincere. And Allah knows, I don't know, for me even, I'm very, 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 very critical of myself. I never try to label myself as like a pious person. I know I say a lot of things that are, that have that give off that vibe, but I always tell people, like, I'm just as flawed as you guys are. And please don't paint me with this picture. It's one of the first things you learn in Aqidah class. Prophets are ma'soom. Scholars aren't, just because we're the inheritors of the prophets doesn't mean we inherited their isma. Like, we're not ma'soom just like them. But I'm like, man, you guys paint that picture so much. And I'm like, bro, I'm just like you guys, but alhamdulillah, I've been exposed to a lot of good stuff. But just like how you guys have been exposed to stuff, understand that does not give you the right to be arrogant. You guys should be, be in this science, the more humble you are, the more Allah will increase you in it, man. Honestly speaking, the smartest people, again, I don't want to, I guess this is the reason why you don't mention names, but the Salim family, they're some of the most smartest people I've met in my life, but they will never make you feel like you're the dumb person in the room when you're in the room with them. They will never make you feel like you're not part of the conversation. Mufti Yasir, all the teachers that I'm sure the other madrasas as well. I just don't know them personally, so I'm not going to mention their names as well. But that's what I love so much, man. Like, they never made you feel bad. And I told these kids, like, inshallah, I want to relay that to you guys as well for the next generation. I want you guys to understand why these sciences, why they mean so much to me, and how you guys can also increase in it. So I feel like, alhamdulillah, Allah gave me that opportunity by teaching in this Islamic school. I get to kind of do my service to the deen, like do that khidmah that I always wanted. So that's why I said, like, even though I'm not in Florida, I still feel like the goal that I wanted to accomplish, I still got to do it through Texas. So I'm really happy, alhamdulillah, the opportunity I've been given. So inshallah, we're going to try to make the best out of it for this year in my school. One thing that is lacking, I will say, in majority of Islamic schools, though, is that real core structured curriculum for high school students. We've done it up until middle school, but I would say high school, I would say most schools that I've contacted, at least I've contacted a decent bit, they're not satisfying the needs of a lot of the students, because the challenges, that me and you grew up with, they're not the same anymore.
Absolutely. And
I feel like that needs to be addressed. And that is my goal. Like, when I said I wanted to become the best Islamic studies teacher in America, I said that because I want to try to build that up, like trying building up that curriculum, having the advice of our senior scholars, that they're the ones, right? They don't get the credit for it, but they're the reasons why if it ever finds success, it's going to be through their advice and their mashwara. So I'm hoping I can kind of facilitate that a little bit, talk with them, get advice from them, and meet the demands of the current students, especially that high school age, what they need to really be, because the main thing that they're lacking is confidence in their religion. They feel like when you're a Muslim, we don't offer as much as what the Western society offers. When they don't realize everything that the Western society offers, so much of it is just relabeled from what Islam is. And because they don't feel like that respect of Islam, they don't feel confident in it. And that's why they're so shaky in so many elements of it. Yeah. So I want to try to address a lot of those elements, and inshallah, I'm trying to get, mashwara to the teachers. What are some ways that we can do that? What are some books? What are some sciences? What are some techniques that we can use to address all of those things? Because that's very needed in this these next 10, 20 years that we're going to be in America. This next generation, it is going to play a really vital role in our sustainability in this country. And whatever I can do, again, to help in that, I want to play that role. So alhamdulillah, whatever I can do, I want to do, because I do feel not like as if I'm somebody great, but I would love that if I could expose them to something great. And that's the goal, inshallah. So that's what we're trying to aim for. Mawlana Usman, he's doing that in his school as well. He's somebody that I have 100% trust with. I'm going to be having communication with him. But I will say this, yeah, for the Muslim scholars, whoever, mashallah, half the audience, I feel like in this very treasured podcast is scholars, which is so unique, right? If you guys are listening, please have some type of communication with your local Islamic school, because they need that help. Because a lot of the things that Muslims are dealing with in these Islamic schools, they need to have those things addressed. And if you don't, when they go into the real world, they're going to be hit with such a gut shot, like a culture shock. Yeah. It will put them off track for years, man. And because I've seen that happen to them. The brightest kids, but because they weren't confident in their religion, they were just taught fundamentals, but nothing beyond. It takes years away from their life, and that's not fair to them. Like how in my community, we lost years of certain friends of mine's lives. You know, they weren't spent the best way that they could have been. I don't want to have that happen with our next generation, because that's not fair to them. We have that responsibility as elders. We should meet that demand. We should meet that need that they have. So I urge whoever is working with a school in some capacity, or if you know about a school, reach out to them in some capacity and try and work with them. So inshallah, in the future, we can say we have some type of standardized curriculum for high school students to meet the needs of high school students, middle school as well. I think they're also an important group to focus on, but I think there are some actual things made for them, tailored for them. So alhamdulillah, that sector is kind of cleared. But again, there is that really important sector, the 14, 15, 16, 17. Those are very special years in the growth of a Muslim mind.
May Allah make it easy and help you out with that project, because as you're speaking, we definitely need to touch base offline about this as well, because I'll connect you with some people, inshallah. Just wrapping up here, one random question, and I like to throw this towards the end so it throws people off guard, but how's your first Tarawih prayer? And what have you learned over the years with Tarawih, and what advices would you give leading Tarawih over the years?
First Tarawih prayer was without a doubt the best Tarawih prayer in my life. That was such an amazing experience, because I got to lead it with, again, my brother, my best friend, Hafiz Usama. He knows how much I cherish that time. We always talk about it to this day. I would say the main thing, if you are a first-time Tarawih leader, understand that don't feel bad if every single aspect of it is premeditated, as if you're scheduling every single aspect. All right, you're literally we break it down every single page, like we did literally the week before Ramadan. We said, all right, we're going through Juz 1 through 30, and we're going to find out right now, what are you going to recite? And you're not going to change it. You're not allowed to change it. You live it till death do you part. You are reading that part, bro. I don't care what happens. So we organized it to the T, me and him. And the main thing is, like any Hifz teacher will tell you, just don't feel discouraged throughout the day, whatever it might be. At nighttime, it is your right for you to lead that salah. Nobody else in the community has the right to do it, because you are the one that was assigned. That is your responsibility. This is your moment to man up now. This is your moment to kind of, you're in the position of the Hufaz of the past, of the scholars of the past. This is the position where Sahaba radiallahu anhum were at. Respect that position and just embrace it, and don't feel discouraged by it. If any Hafiz is ever in their life, if they ever feel like, man, I did so bad yesterday, please do not hesitate to contact me, because I have done every single mistake you can possibly do in a Tarawih Salah. I've done it twice, okay? I've done every single mistake you can possibly do, and I still had the himmat, the willpower to move forward, because I had my friend with me. And again, like I owed it to the community, I owed it to the people, and you owe it to yourself. You became a Hafiz for a purpose, and I don't want to degrade a Hafiz that literally your only responsibility is to lead Tarawih. No, the greater responsibility is you embody the Quran. People should know you're a Hafiz not through if they know that you memorized it, but it's more so through who you are as a person. I feel like that guy's a hafiz. He has to be a hafiz, man. The way that he interacts, the way that he treats the Quran, the way he does that should be, honestly speaking, how we envision a hafiz. But unfortunately, we envision a hafiz just through if they lead Tarawih or not. So you owe it to what you represent to lead Tarawih and push through it no matter how hard it gets. And again, like how you did through Hifz, Fajr time is the time to read, man. If you can develop that habit to read after Fajr, again, I'm not going to say that I do it. I'm not going to paint a picture for you guys. Again, I don't label myself as a very pious person, but I've never in my life ever regretted a day where I read after Fajr. It's impossible, man. There's something in that time. If you can spend your time after that, after every Tarawih, after Fajr prayer, just read it, have a little basis, and then after that, maybe then start reading it after Dhuhr Salah. You can chill between Fajr and Dhuhr. Don't go crazy. Sleep if you want because you were up all night doing who knows what. But once Dhuhr time kicks in, you're back on. And whatever you read at Fajr time, now just start repeating it. And honestly speaking, that was the formula for me. Read at Fajr time what you're going to read for that night at Dhuhr time. I don't know how it is for working people, honestly speaking, but for me, from Zohar to Asr, it's just straight reading. There's nothing else that matters in the world to me. From Zohar to Asr, I don't care who it is. My mom, she respected it. My dad, they respected it. People will respect you if you're dedicating time to Quran. They're not going to be like, oh, bro, that's so messed up. In the month of Ramadan? I'm like, yes, in the month of Ramadan, I'm going to read Quran. You have a problem? Yeah. So Zohar to Asr, straight content, straight reading. After Fajr, just do a touchdown. Just do like a little base, just get friendly with it, read it. You don't have to go crazy. That's how I would recommend going through it. And again, there's no better feeling than a Khatam Quran day, man. If you're a Hafiz leading, it's just a surreal experience. Like I said, the best days of my life were the Alim course graduation and the Hifz graduation. Khatam al-Quran are just their own breed, man. It's you've done something that is so special. Something that unfortunately, through reading, we don't do throughout the year, unfortunately. But you give yourself so much happiness that, man, I did it in a month. There's a special happiness, man. And there's a bond. If you ever lead it with somebody, you have a very special bond with that person. And people will they have argument with philosophies. Should you lead with somebody? Should you not lead with somebody? If you're leading with somebody, don't trip about it. Don't feel like your Tarawih is inferior, all right? Anybody that makes you feel bad about leading Tarawih, however you lead it, honestly, man, I don't know. I'm not getting positive vibes from that, man. I'm going to be honest. Whoever it is, if you're leading Tarawih, that's a big thing because there's so many Huffaz that don't lead it. I was not able to lead it this past year, and I felt it, man. Ramadan is not the same for a Hafiz if he's not leading. You will never be able to understand what a non-Hafiz feels when they don't lead Tarawih. But if you're a Hafiz and you don't lead it, you can't go back to normal life and not leading it. Ramadan there's an emptiness. I think anybody who ever has become a Hafiz, they will agree with you. If you don't have that interaction with the Quran in the month of Ramadan leading it, your Ramadan it's impossible to feel complete. There will be an emptiness that you will feel inside. And so no matter how crusty you are, again, believe me, I am the crustiest. But I even have that desire. Moving forward, I don't want to have that feeling of not leading Tarawih because I owe it to myself for the position, for who I'm standing alongside with, who I'm associated with. And I owe it to the efforts of all the people that have worked so hard for me and alongside with me that at least do something. Smallest amount, just do it and don't feel bad about it. We're all in it together. We're all struggling together. Don't feel bad about it. Inshallah, your sincerity will shine through and you'll get through it. Don't feel bad about it too much.
Jazakallah khairan for that. Then last and final question, what advice would you have for students that want to study or are currently studying?
If you want to study, I would say reach out first locally before going out to travel for it. Because it's, Mawlana Wali, he mentioned this to me. It's not fair that again, I'm not going to, not for verbatim what he said, but he said, there's so much in your local area. It's not fair that you go outside without first taking the benefit from the locals first, because they're the ones, again, who have the pulse of your area. They know how to interact with you and deal with you. So if you have an opportunity, first try to click with somebody within the local community. If you don't have access to that, Alhamdulillah, there are a lot of online resources. Expose yourself a little bit and ask yourself this question: how much do I want to proceed with my Islamic education? Like, what do I want out of it? Do I want practicality? Do I want to dedicate this? Do I want to teach this? What do you want your relationship to be with that with Islam, right? And that's something really important to reflect upon, because not everybody needs to become a scholar. Not everybody needs to be, the minimum you need to do is you need to know the basics. And if you need to know that, you have to ask yourself that question: am I satisfied with that, or do I want to go more? So if you're a person looking to learn, again, ask yourself that question: what exactly is it that I want to learn? And if you don't know, then who is somebody that you like? Interact with them a little bit and then ask them. They'll give you a little bit of a better understanding. They can, they can hook you up with that knowledge, their insight. Like Mawlana Kashif with me. He knew who I was and he saw something that nobody else saw. And through the hardest of trials, I was able to finish. And he saw that. So maybe there's somebody that you know or that you can get in touch with. And inshallah, maybe they can tell you what's going to be the best mode to move forward with you. With current students of knowledge, it's tough because it's so difficult because there's so many different moods that are in Alim course. Like I attended the Darul Arqam graduation, and one student, then he mentioned how he didn't feel worthy of Alim course his entire life, and he just wanted to be an ordinary person. And maybe that feeling, it resonates with so many of us while we're in Alim course. I just want to be a normal person. I just want understand that. I mean, I would just say, like from my example, if Allah wants it to happen, Allah will make a way for it to happen. And if you feel like, man, things are getting a little difficult, really sincerely ask yourself, is this something I just want to do? Why are you doing it? And ask yourself, if you really want to continue doing it, Allah will make a path open for you, man. It's all about your intention. That's what I've learned more and more as I came to Chicago, as I've interacted with people in Houston. When I met Mufti Zaid and he told me his origin story of how he joined Alim course, if you have a good intention, man, that's all you need in life. Allah will open your door for you. And if it doesn't happen, then that's it. You don't have to think twice about it. Allah didn't want it to happen for you, and you just move on. You take the punches, you learn from it, you got take the good from it, leave the bad, and then move forward with your life. But again, just renew your intentions every single year. Go back to why it is that you joined that first time, because that's for me what got me back on track, right? When we talked about after my 3 years, after I wanted to leave, why did I do this in the first place? If I feel like I've accomplished it, okay, then if you're feeling bad, then you can leave. But if you still feel like you didn't get what you wanted out of it, and if Madrasa didn't kick you out yet, if you didn't get expelled, man, just keep going with the punches, brothers or sisters, both. If you're going into these dini sciences, just have a good intention, because you have to, man. And this type of science, you're saying the words of the prophets and the awliya of the past. You think you're gonna get that with insincere intentions? You're just kidding yourself, man. Honestly. So keep a sincere intention. Allah will open up doors for you. That's true. And if you want an example of that, alhamdulillah, just look at the little bit of success I was able to have through Alim course. I'm not a somebody, but alhamdulillah, at least I know of somebody's, and I'm at least in that group. So that's what I was saying.
Jazakallah khairan, man. You just kept it super raw, super open. And, the funny thing is, I asked you before, is there anything that's off the table that you don't want to discuss? And I was kind of alluding to, repeating a year. But you said, no, I can't think of anything. You didn't even mention it. You just said, I don't know. Like, what are you even talking about? So Jazakallah khairan. Appreciate you being so open and honest in dropping those words of wisdom for us. Appreciate you coming on. And you're usually the first comment anyways.
Best believe I might be for this one too.
Jazakallah khairan for joining us, Mawlana Yousuf. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
If I personally do know you, you're more than welcome to search up on Instagram Intayaz, Intayaz, and I'll be more than happy to follow you. On Instagram, I'm very personal with who I accept. I only accept people that I know. If there's anybody in the audience that did feel like they just wanted to connect for whatever reason it might be, maybe you wanted a reference or something like that, or you just wanted to say LOL to me or something in real life, you wanted to laugh at my misery. So you can add me on Facebook. I don't mind. On Facebook, same thing. INTAYAZ. Facebook, I'm more open with it. So even if I don't know you, feel free to add me on that. Facebook, I consider more like an open platform. So if somebody just wants to connect for the sake of it, maybe if something resonated or you just wanted to hear something a little bit more about it, feel more than welcome to add me on that, and inshallah I can connect with you that way.